We'll bring it out in a few weeks' time and show you how it's got on. Hello, back in the studio today with this Chinese Elm Bonsai. We did a video on this tree 3 weeks ago. In fact, it was 3 weeks ago exactly to this day. And 3 weeks ago, we trimmed this tree back quite drastically. If you saw the video when we first did it, you'll remember this tree was literally out here, the foliage, the canopy. It had got quite overgrown by its current owner and it had come in for a bit of a trim. At the time, we cut it very, very hard back and it pretty much had hardly any leaves on it in that time after I'd done the work. I know a lot of you have perhaps seen that video and you thought, oh, he's cutting a lot off, and a few people commented, so oh, I hope that tree will be okay. So we're confident in the work we're doing. We've done this many times before. And this tree, once it was trimmed back, it just went into an unheated but warm greenhouse. And 21 days later, we brought it out to show you the amount of growth this tree has put out. You know, we said when we trimmed it, there was lots of buds you could see that were just starting to open, but for it to bud out and leaf to this extent on every branch in 3 weeks is phenomenal. We're very, very pleased with the progress it's making. So if you look in here at the tree, it's even throwing shoots out just straight from the trunk. You know, this had a drastic prune, a very, very hard back prune it had, back to just a basic structure. So what we thought we'd do now is, first of all, we brought it out to show you how it's developed over the last few weeks. And some of this long growth here, it's putting out. And what I wanted to do is just nip it back a little bit today, prune it back, take off some of the little bits we don't need, and then I'm going to let it grow for another 3 weeks to fill out and give it another prune. We initially said to the customer that this wanted pruning and could he leave it with us for about 6 weeks or so. So in another 3 weeks' time, we could do a final prune of this and reunite it with its owner. So the top of it wants a little bit more developing. What I'm going to do, again, clean sharp pair of scissors and some of this extension growth. I'm just going to nip a little bit of this extension growth back. Here, there's a tiny little stub that it hasn't leafed from. Yeah, so we can just snip that back. Another little one here, and snip these back. I'm just going to work my way around the tree, just trimming back so that it doesn't put on too much excessive length of growth. So just a little bit of shearing back on these more vigorous ones and a little bit of removal of the buds that it's thrown from in between branches. We've got a structure of branches on here and there's a lot of buds that's just thrown out straight from the trunk. So I don't really need these, so I'm going to remove them. And because it's just young growth, you can just remove it with your fingers and your fingertips. Take off this sort of growth here, look, so that we can get a bit more definition through it. Otherwise, it's just going to grow and become so woolly with that growth that it's just going to go back to sort of stage it was before. So by pinching those out, there's no point in spending the next 3 weeks putting out growth we don't need. So by doing this sort of interim trim and tidy up, the growth it's going to put out in the next 3 weeks is going to be considerably more usable, which is what we need. So it's worth me just getting in there now and tidying up some of these shoots, rubbing them off the trunk, and where we've got branches emerging and we've got little fluffy bits, look, coming out, these have all just emerged in the last few weeks. These can be trimmed back with scissors just to tidy up and neaten up this tree. So I'm just going to work my way along the branches, up the tree, doing that sort of growth, making it look tidier. Okay, so we've finished trimming this now. We've rubbed off a lot of the little bits of growth, the advantageous buds, the new growth that was coming out in the sort of nooks and crannies of branches. And you see when you look in here now, we've got a clearer trunk line and branches because this was just all covered in new growth. And then we've shortened back these foliage pads, taken back some of this longer growth on these. So now we're going to pop it back in the greenhouse and give it another 3 weeks for it to flush out again and give it a second prune back. And what we'll do then is this is part 2 of working on this tree. We'll bring it back out in 3 weeks or so, and we'll do a part 3, a final instalment before this tree goes back to the customer. So please give us a like, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out the final part of this series working on this Chinese Elm Bonsai. Thank you very much.